3 years of marriage, and my wife pushed me off a cliff. I never even knew why she did it. As I was dying, I used my last breath to ask her, "Chloe, what?" She glared at me with pure disgust. "If it wasn't for you, my parents would have never broken us up. Caleb would never have gotten in that car crash and died on the street. This is all your fault. You destroyed my life." When I opened my eyes again, I was back in high school. This time, I decided I'd stay as far away from that fucking idiot, Chloe White, as I possibly could. 1. Second chance, Ethan. Check out the new transfer student. He's so hot. Someone nudged my arm. I snapped back to reality with a jolt. I turned my head. The person next to me was Chloe White, the same woman who would one day push me off a cliff. The next second, I pinched her arm hard, needing to know if this was a dream. When I saw her looking back at me with a wounded expression, I almost cried with relief. I guess all those times I paid my respects to my ancestors actually paid off. Look at this, a second chance. Today was Kayla Vance's first day at our school. In my past life, Chloe had the exact same starstruck look on her face. Back then, I thought she was just kidding, messing around like she always did. But it wasn't long before I saw her and Caleb in an alleyway. This time, I didn't try to talk her out of it like I did before. Instead, I just played along. "Yeah, he looks all right." Chloe pouted, clearly unsatisfied. "You're so boring." I didn't feel like wasting any more words on her. I turned back to my textbook and kept repeating a mantra in my head. This life, I have to stay away from her. The reason Caleb Vance transferred schools was because he'd knocked up a girl at his old one. He was through and through a total scumbag. While the rest of us were grinding to get into a good college, he was already living it up in bars, partying every night. Whenever a teacher tried to get through to him, he'd just lean back and say, "Who says your teenage years can only be one color?" But for some reason, that kind of guy was lethal to girls our age. And Chloe White was his biggest fan. In my last life, I told her parents she was dating him. I thought I was saving her. Turns out, I was just being a self-important fool. And besides, what did Caleb's death have to do with me? I wasn't the one who told him to get involved with a local gang. If she wanted revenge, she should have gone after those thugs. All you can say is that she was completely delusional. So, to prevent her from developing some bizarre, twisted hatred for me, I would have absolutely nothing to do with her choices. 2. The desk mate debacle, sure enough. Just like before, Chloe campaigned hard to be Caleb's desk partner. The teacher gave in, and the two of them were seated together. Their relationship took off like a rocket. Before a week was out, they were already making out in the open like no one else existed. They were out joyriding late at night, hitting up bars, the whole 9 yards. While they were living it up, I was cramming for the SATs. In my last life, getting involved in Chloe's drama completely tanked my scores. This time, I applied for a transfer to the honors program to study with the top students. The day my transfer was approved, Chloe stormed up to my desk. "Why didn't you tell me you were switching classes?" I almost laughed. Who did she think she was? Since when did I need to report my plans to her? Well, I didn't answer. She got even angrier. "I don't care. You need to go to the office right now and switch back. Or else." "I'm not switching back." I cut her off. "I requested the transfer to the honors program. It's my decision, and it really doesn't have anything to do with you, does it?" She was stunned for a second, then nodded curtly. "Fine, Ethan. You said it. Don't you regret this? Are you jealous?" Before she could finish, I turned and walked away. Over the next few days, I focused on catching up. During a study break, I overheard some guys in the back of the classroom talking about Caleb and Chloe. That new guy from the other class and Chloe White are really going at it, huh? Another guy with short hair scoffed. "It's because Chloe's hot. Good arm candy. Otherwise, a guy with Caleb's temper would have dumped her after he got what he wanted." One of the other guys didn't believe it. "Chloe seems so innocent. No way she's already sleeping with him." You guys have no idea. Caleb and I are tight. We were out last night, and he told me he had his hand down her. Whatever, man. You're just making shit up. If you think I'm lying, then I bet you he can get her to drop out of the singing competition next week. Provoked by their disbelief, the short-haired guy got pissed. "Fine. We're bros. He'll do me a solid. It's no big deal." The group of them then marched out of the classroom and headed toward Chloe's class. 3. A fork in the road. I kept my head down, completely uninterested in their pathetic drama. In my past life, the same scene had played out. I knew Caleb was bad news and tried to warn Chloe several times, but she just thought I was trying to drive a wedge between them. worried she would ruin her future and regret it for the rest of her life. I hesitated before finally telling her parents. This time, I decided to respect her choices. It wasn't my life to live or to ruin, but I should have known she'd find a way to drag me into it. Our parents were friends and had bought apartments right across the hall from each other. When I got home that evening, I found Chloe sitting on the floor by my front door. I frowned at the empty beer bottles and cigarette butts littered around her, and a strange smell filling the hallway. This is going to be a pain to clean up. I hope the smell doesn't get into our place. When Chloe saw me, she scrambled to her feet and grabbed my arm. Ethan, I can't get a hold of Caleb. Can you please help me contact him? Her voice was raw and hoarse, like her vocal cords were damaged. He just broke up with me today, out of nowhere, and I don't even know what I did wrong. I'm desperate. That's why I came to you. I love him so much. I can't live without him. I pulled my arm away and took a step back. She used to be so disciplined, meticulously watching her diet to maintain her figure. She never smoked or drank, terrified of anything that might affect her singing voice. But now, for Caleb, she had thrown it all away. All her dreams, her discipline, her standards. She had become the kind of person I despised. I figured if I refused, she'd make a scene and probably hold it against me. So I took out my phone and dialed Caleb's number. Caleb, Chloe's drunk outside my apartment. She wants to see you. Chloe stood beside me, watching anxiously. Caleb's mocking laugh came through the speaker. Do me a favor and ask her if she loves me enough to do anything for me. I had him on speakerphone, so Chloe heard everything. She immediately shouted, Of course, anything. Then drop out of that stupid singing competition. With that, he hung up before Chloe could even respond. I put my phone away and looked at her, a morbid curiosity taking hold. I really wanted to see what she would choose without my interference. It didn't take long to get my answer. She muttered to herself, completely lost. Is that the only way to prove I love him? I didn't answer. I just turned and went inside my apartment. In the end, she didn't participate in the singing competition. The reason given was that she had a severe case of laryngitis and couldn't sing. I never found out if it was a coincidence or if she'd intentionally destroyed her voice. A few days later, while I was studying at home, I heard a loud argument coming from her apartment. Her mother's furious voice was crystal clear through the wall. Have you lost your mind? Don't you have any sense of priority? I told you how important this competition was. With your talent, you would have won easily. That was your ticket to a scholarship at Juilliard. Faced with her mother's accusations, Chloe's voice was dismissive. So I missed this one. There'll be others. With my talent, I can get into any school I want. Besides, it's your fault. If you'd given me more money for throat lozenges, I wouldn't have gotten sick. I couldn't help but laugh. Given how hopelessly obsessed Chloe was, any money she got would have just become spending cash for her and her boyfriend. 4. Campus conflict. A few days later, I saw Chloe and Caleb walking down the street, holding hands. Caleb was smoking, taking a drag before passing the cigarette to Chloe. They both closed their eyes, looking blissful. Maybe they were overcome with passion, because Caleb suddenly pulled her into an alley. The next second, they were kissing like no one was watching. It went on until Chloe's legs seemed to give out. Caleb let out a loud laugh, scooped her up in his arms, and headed toward a cheap motel down the street. The last time I saw them heading for a motel, I did everything I could to stop them. Chloe slapped me across the face and glared at me. Who the hell do you think you are to tell me what to do? I decided she had a point. Respect her choices. Life went on. Soon, it was time for midterms. As expected, Chloe's grades had fallen off a cliff. She went from being one of the top students in her class to the bottom of the entire year. In stark contrast, my grades shot up into the top 10. My homeroom teacher was seriously impressed. Ever since I stopped getting involved in Chloe's mess, everything in my life had been going smoothly. My mood was better than ever. One day after school, my teacher asked me to wait so he could give me some extra tutoring. While I was waiting, I saw Chloe's mom standing humbly in front of my teacher's desk. Her tone was pleading. Mr. Davis, Chloe's grades on the last few tests have been disastrous. Please, could you put in some extra effort and see if you can help her get them back up? Mr. Davis just shook his head. It's not for a lack of trying on my part. Then, he told her about Chloe and Caleb. It was like a switch flipped for Chloe's mom. After leaving the office, she started grabbing students in the hallway. Where's Caleb Vance? When she finally found him in his classroom, She marched up and slapped him hard across the face. The noisy classroom fell silent. Caleb clutched his cheek, staring at her in disbelief. What the hell is your problem? Are you crazy? Why did you hit me? Chloe's mom sneered. Because you're a delinquent who's corrupting my daughter. Do you have any idea you've ruined her future? Do you know how high my hopes were for her? When Caleb realized what this was about, he rolled his eyes. Please, get your facts straight. Your daughter is the one chasing me. If she wasn't begging to be with me, I wouldn't even give her the time of day. Chloe's mom turned pale with rage and raised her hand to slap him again. Just as things were about to explode, Chloe appeared. She pushed Caleb behind her and screamed at her mother. What are you doing? Are you insane? Why are you making a scene at school? If you want to hit someone, hit me. I'm the one who wanted to be with him. You don't understand me, and you don't understand our love. Her mom was probably shocked that her normally well-behaved daughter would turn on her for a boy. Shaking with anger, she slapped Chloe too. If you had found a good student like Ethan, I would have been fine with it. But you had to pick this good-for-nothing punk. Are you trying to kill me? Being suddenly dragged into the drama, I froze. My mind screamed not good. I turned to run, but it was too late. Everyone was looking at me. Caleb was glaring at me with pure hatred. So, it was you little piece of shit. You're the one who snitched. Chloe was staring at me too, a terrifying glint in her eyes. Even though I'd been trying my best to avoid them, I was still getting blamed for their mess. I threw my hands up in exasperation and said loudly, "Leave me out of your business. I didn't do anything. And ma'am, could you please tell them clearly whether or not I was the one who told you?" But Caleb was convinced it was me. Just then, the teacher, hearing the commotion, rushed over and separated everyone. Chloe's mom took a few deep breaths to calm down. If your teacher hadn't told me, I would still be completely in the dark. I breathed a sigh of relief. The blame was finally off me. 5. The price of youth. After that day, their story was all over the school. High school relationships were always a sensitive topic. Usually, when they were discovered, it ended with a breakup. In serious cases, one of the students would be forced to transfer. Their public meltdown was considered especially severe. Caleb was a jock. His grades were already terrible, and he figured he could get into some college on an athletic scholarship without trying. Since he had just transferred here, there was no way he was going to transfer again for Chloe. He even started acting like he was the victim. He'd constantly complain to his friends, "Man, I've dated a ton of girls and never had this problem. This chick is just a walking drama bomb. If she wasn't so obsessed with me, I would have kicked her to the curb ages ago." The countdown to the final exams was getting shorter. I buried myself in my books and lost track of them for a while. Until one day, I saw police cars and emergency vehicles swarming our apartment complex. A crowd of neighbors was standing outside, pointing up. I looked up and saw Chloe standing on the edge of the roof. Her mother was on the ground below, pleading with her. But Chloe just screamed, her voice filled with anguish. "You just don't understand me." Then she saw me. "Ethan, you should understand. Tell Caleb I love him. I'd do anything for him, even die. Please, just tell him not to leave me." Every head in the crowd turned to me. I rubbed my temples. I fucking knew it. Nothing good ever comes from being near Chloe White. And then she jumped. Thankfully, the firefighters had an airbag set up, and it caught her. But the impact still caused internal injuries. She tore a ligament in her abdomen and would never be able to sing challenging songs again. She didn't seem to care. She even bragged that this was proof of their love, that this was her epic, passionate youth. But only I knew what she had truly lost. She could have been on a stage, the center of attention, basking in everyone's admiration. In this life, she had destroyed herself. When her classmates heard about it, they were all in disbelief. But Chloe stood proudly at the front of the classroom and declared, "What do you bookworms know? This is what it means to be young. You people don't have a youth." Our classmates just looked at her like she was an idiot. With only 2 months left until finals, I dove into the final sprint. I only heard updates about Chloe occasionally when my mom would mention her. She said Chloe's mom was always complaining to her about Caleb, that they were getting more and more out of control. Skipping school, staying out all night, drinking, street racing. All of that cost money, money Chloe didn't have. So she started stealing from home. Chloe's mom would cry to my mom, eventually begging her to ask me to talk to Chloe, to help her see the light and come back to her senses. When I heard that, alarm bells went off in my head. I immediately told my mom, "Mom, stay out of other people's family business. You just get worn out for nothing and end up being resented for it." My mom just sighed. She was such a nice girl. How'd she turn out like this? I saved her in my past life, and she didn't just not thank me. She hated my guts. This time, every road she took was one she chose herself. Even if she ended up in the gutter, she'd have no one to blame but herself. The final month was a blur of intense studying. To avoid any chance of being distracted by Chloe, I even rented a small apartment closer to school to hide out. Finally, all the hard work paid off. I got a score I was happy with. Chloe, busy with her dramatic love life, bombed her exams. With her grades, she'd be lucky to get into a community college. 6. The graduation party after graduation, the class presidents from our year organized a big party and invited everyone. I figured Chloe and Caleb wouldn't have the nerve to show up, so I agreed to go. I was wrong. They both came. Chloe was wearing a revealing micro-skirt, looking far more mature than any girl our age. Caleb was in ripped, baggy jeans, a complete punk. After dinner, the teachers left, and the students broke off into their own groups to let loose. A school is its own little society. People held back their grudges while classes were in session, but now that we had graduated, the gloves were off. The class valedictorian said snidely, "I don't know what Chloe White has to be so proud of. She's dressed like she's selling herself, and she's acting like it's a fashion statement." Chloe and the valedictorian had never gotten along, especially after Chloe started dating Caleb and used him as muscle to bully her. Her comment got nods of agreement from those around us. It was clear their behavior had made them pretty unpopular. Chloe heard her and, instead of being ashamed, just laughed. "What? Are you jealous I have a boyfriend? Or just insecure because you're ugly? A girl who looks like you will probably never find a guy as hot as mine." She then turned and blew a kiss at Caleb. The valedictorian just sneered. "Chloe, you're the only one who thinks that loser is a prize." Hearing himself get insulted, Caleb's face darkened. "A girl with a face like yours? I wouldn't touch you if you paid me." Then he grabbed Chloe and started kissing her right there. "If you want to make out, there's a motel next door." "Don't gross us out here," someone shouted. The party's mood was ruined. People started getting up to leave. I stood up too, ready to head out, but Caleb blocked my way. He stared at me with a smug look. "Don't think I don't know. You've always had a crush on Chloe. But let me give you some advice. Don't even think about it. She's my woman. Even if I was done with her, she's still way out of your league." I just laughed. "Caleb, not everyone thinks Chloe White is some kind of treasure." Without waiting for reaction, I walked past them and out the door. Honestly, they were perfect for each other. Two narcissistic morons. While I was waiting for my Uber, I heard a voice call out from behind me. "Ethan." I turned around. It was Chloe. She walked up to me and stammered for a moment before finally saying, "Don't take what Caleb said to heart." I looked her straight in the eye and asked the question that had been on my mind for so long. "Was it worth it?" "What?" she asked, confused. "Giving up school, your dreams, everything. Was it worth it?" "Of course it was," she said with a dreamy smile. "You just don't understand love." I was stunned for a second. A love that required you to lose yourself wasn't love at all. But on the surface, I just smiled. "Well, congratulations then." Just then, Caleb came running out of the hotel. He saw us talking by the side of the road and, without a single question, stormed over and slapped her. "You little bitch." I turned my back for 1 second, "and you're already flirting with this pretty boy." A bright red handprint appeared on Chloe's pale cheek, but she didn't even seem angry. Instead, she looked at him with a bashful expression. "Caleb, I'm pregnant with your baby. How can you still not trust me? You're the only one I've ever had in my heart." I felt a shock wave go through me. Some people's lives are just beginning at 18. Others are already having kids. People really do live in different worlds. At that moment, my Uber pulled up. I jumped in as soon as it stopped, terrified that if I waited another second, I'd be dragged back into their psychodrama. 7. Diverging fates. As the car pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. In that short time, the two of them were already kissing again, right there on the sidewalk. It seemed the slap was just foreplay, and I was just a prop in their twisted idea of romance. Not long after, exam results were officially released. As expected, Chloe and Caleb could only get into a local community college. I, on the other hand, had gotten into a great university in Boston. I was so excited I couldn't sleep. Not only had I gotten into my dream school, but I could finally get away from those two lunatics for good. Before I knew it, it was time for college to start. During my 4 years there, I'd occasionally see updates about them in our old high school group chat. I heard they had a wedding ceremony, but since they weren't of legal age, they never got a marriage certificate. Caleb was working as a delivery driver, a shadow of his former arrogant self. Chloe had the baby and became a stay-at-home mom. I glanced at the messages and then dived back into my new life, new classes, new friends. Because I had knowledge of the future, I knew which companies would take off and which government policies would create opportunities. I started making plans early. In my junior year, I co-founded a company with a few classmates. Within 3 years, we were a success. I became the kind of person people envied. Plenty of women showed interest in me during that time, but because of what happened with Chloe, I was extremely cautious when it comes to relationships. My parents were getting anxious and kept trying to set me up on blind dates, but I always found an excuse to decline. Finally, my mom asked me over the phone one day, "You're not still thinking about the girl from across the hall, are you?" I paused, genuinely confused for a moment about who she was talking about. When it clicked, I laughed. "Mom, your imagination is running wild. How is that even possible?" "Good," she said, sounding relieved. In this life, forget about being with her. Just hearing her name made my skin crawl. But of course, when I went home for Christmas, I ran right into her in the hallway. I hadn't seen her in years and almost didn't recognize her. Her skin was sallow, her body rail-thin, and her face was lined with wrinkles. There was no trace of the vibrant girl she used to be. Even her once thick, dark hair was now thin and sparse. But the biggest change wasn't her appearance. It was her eyes. They used to be full of light. Now they were just numb. I figured it had something to do with her parents passing away from illness. Their health problems had shown early signs. In my last life, I was there to help them get early treatment, so it was never a major issue. In this life, Chloe was too busy with her love life to even notice her parents were sick. "Ethan," she asked, her voice uncertain. Maybe it had been too long. We were strangers now. I gave her a slight nod, having no interest in a long conversation, and looked back down at the work emails on my phone. But she kept talking. "Ethan, have you been doing well all these years?" "Fine, Ian Suerdkartli." "You?" She gave a bitter smile. "Getting by. I've been at home with the kids all these years. I was thinking now that the oldest is in school, I could find a job, but then I got pregnant with our second." Her voice was flat, filled with a numb regret. I didn't say anything. After all, changing someone's destiny comes at a price. Helping someone solve their problems takes effort, and she wasn't worth it. As I was unlocking my door, I heard an angry roar from her apartment across the hall. It was Caleb. "God damn it. I told you to go buy a pack of smokes. What took you so long? Were you out turning tricks? Where are they? Where are my cigarettes?" Slap. The sharp sound of a hand hitting skin echoed in the hall. Chloe was pregnant, and Caleb still treated her like this. It seemed years of marriage had finally worn the shine off their once epic love story. That evening, my parents and I were having dinner when we heard a loud crashing sound from next door, followed by the piercing cries of a child. My mom sighed. "That poor girl, Chloe. Her husband gets drunk and goes crazy. He beats her and the kid all the time. He even used to hit her parents when they were still alive." Just as she finished speaking, we heard a woman's blood-curdling scream from next door. My mother couldn't stand it. She turned to my dad. "Honey, you have to go over there and do something." I quickly stopped them. They didn't ask for our help. Don't get involved in their business. But my mom wouldn't listen. She went on about how she'd known Chloe since she was a little girl, how we were neighbors. In the end, she dragged my dad out the door. I was worried, so I followed them. Just as my dad was about to knock, the door opened, and Chloe stood there, her face covered in bruises. Before any of us could speak, Caleb rushed out from behind her, grabbed her by the hair, and dragged her back inside. "Stop it," my dad yelled, shoving his foot in the closing security door. "What kind of man hits a woman?" Caleb looked at my parents, then at me, standing in the doorway, and sneered. "I'm hitting my wife. What the fuck is it to you? You mind your own goddamn business, or I'll beat you two old geezers too." "You? How could you?" My mother was trembling with rage. I quickly pulled my father back, urged him to go back inside our apartment, and then turned to Caleb. "Long time no see. Reduced to beating your own wife now." "Fuck you." He slurred, his eyes glazed over. He was clearly drunk off his ass. "Don't you foo. He couldn't even finish his sentence. Knowing it was useless to talk to him, I took out my phone to call the police. Suddenly, Chloe lunged at me. Don't call the cops. He still loves me. He cares about me. He just can't control himself when he's drunk. He'll be fine when he sobers up. Hearing that from her, I didn't say another word. I turned around and went back to my apartment. That same night, I started looking for houses in a new community. When I got back inside, my mother asked, well, she's willing to take it, and he's willing to give it. Stay out of it from now on. 8. Night of violence. The very next morning, I contacted a real estate agent and spent the whole day looking at properties. We found a perfect place in a new development. It was in a beautiful, quiet neighborhood. The layout was great, and it came fully furnished. Most importantly, the community had 24-hour security patrols and a one-touch emergency call system in every home. Perfect for my parents. I paid the deposit on the spot. We just had to wait 3 days for the paperwork to be ready, and then we could close the deal. By the time we got home from dinner that night, it was already 10 o'clock. As soon as the elevator doors opened, I jumped. A figure was huddled by our front door, sobbing. When the hallway light flickered on, I saw it was Chloe. She looked even worse than the day before. Her body was covered in bruises, and her clothes were torn. My mom saw her, and her sympathy flared up again. Oh, you poor child. What happened? Chloe looked up, and I saw she was clutching a small child in her arms. We brought them inside, and Chloe explained through her sobs. Caleb had gotten drunk again. This time, the beating was so bad she couldn't take it anymore. She waited until he passed out and then ran. As she was talking, our security door was suddenly kicked with tremendous force. It was Caleb. Chloe, don't think I don't know you're in there. Get your ass out here right now, he bellowed, pounding on the door. Are you screwing that pretty boy Ethan? You cheating bitch. You dare cheat on me? I'll fucking kill you with a knife. Chloe was shaking like a leaf. She grabbed my mom's sleeve. Auntie, please don't open the door. He'll kill me. My mom tried to comfort her, but I just frowned. This life, I had done everything I could to avoid Chloe, but she was still a ghost I couldn't shake. Yesterday, when I wanted to call the cops, she stopped me. Now she brought the danger right to our doorstep. I quietly went back to my room and dialed 911. This was something for the police to handle. My family and I had no obligation to take this risk for her. This was the life she chose. After all these years of marriage, I couldn't believe she never had a chance to leave. And she still got pregnant with a second child. Some people are just beyond saving. Why aren't you opening the door? Caleb was still screaming outside. Did you really hook up with that punk Ethan? Don't be delusional. He's a college grad, and you're a mother of 2. The most he'd do is use you for fun. I'm the only one who's really yours. Chloe blushed and glanced timidly at me. She saw that I hadn't even looked up from my phone, and she lowered her head and started crying again. Soon, we heard sirens approaching. A few minutes later, Caleb's shouts turned into yelps. Officer, I'm a good guy. I'm just looking for my wife. They're running a brothel in there. When Chloe saw the police had arrived, she pointed a trembling finger at me and shrieked. Ethan, did you call the cops? Are you sick? Who told you to call the police? What if he gets a criminal record? Are you trying to ruin our family? How can you be so malicious? I just sneered. A leopard never changes its spots. I opened the door and pushed her out. If you have something to say it to the police. And stay away from my home from now on. My parents are old. They can't handle this kind of stress. She was so stunned by my words that her face turned shades of red and white. The commotion had drawn out all our neighbors. Seeing the police, they all started complaining. Officer, you have to do something about this couple. They're always fighting and breaking things at night. That's right. And the screaming. It's impossible to sleep. One time I woke up in the middle of the night. I thought the place was haunted. Hearing this, the police prepared to take the reeking, drunk Caleb away. That finally scared him sober. He dropped the act, his mind suddenly clear as he started bowing and apologizing. Officer, this is all a misunderstanding. My wife and I are law-abiding citizens. We're very much in love. We just, like to role-play sometimes, you know. The sounds and movements can get a little loud. Chloe, casting aside all shame, rushed over to back him up. Yes, officer. This is all because some troublemaker made a false report. The officer took one look at the fresh bruises all over Chloe, said nothing, and hauled Caleb away. Chloe grabbed her child and ran after them. The next morning, I arranged with the new property owner to move in early. The seller was understanding and, after hearing what happened, agreed immediately. He got the documents ready, and we finalized the sale the very next day. 9. The tragic in 5 days after we moved out, a message popped up in the old building's community group chat. Someone had violently broken down the security door to our old apartment and completely trashed the place. I didn't have to guess who it was. It had to be Caleb. Thank God I got my parents out of there. I was about to call the police when another message appeared in the group. Chloe was dead. Caleb had murdered her inside our old apartment. My mom was in disbelief, her eyes wide with terror. After I pressed her, she finally told me the truth. She had felt sorry for Chloe, so she gave her the key to our old place, telling her she could hide there if things got too bad. Since Chloe had died in our property, we were naturally called in for questioning. It was from the police that I learned what happened after that night. Caleb was taken away, but Chloe pleaded with the officers, claiming she had inflicted the injuries on herself and that it had nothing to do with him. To prove it, she lied and said she had severe self-harming tendencies. The police knew she was lying, but without any evidence, and because it was a domestic dispute, they could only give Caleb a warning for disturbing the peace and let him go. But the very next night, Caleb beat her again. Only this time, no one came to help. It wasn't until the next day that people noticed the windows of Chloe's apartment had been smashed, with glass scattered over the cars parked below. A car owner went upstairs to demand compensation, but got no answer. Then he saw the demolished door of our old apartment. Sensing something was terribly wrong, he called the police. When they entered our old apartment, they found Chloe's body. Her child had been drowned in a basin of water. A month later, the police tracked Caleb down. While trying to escape, he ran into traffic and was run over by a large truck, dying instantly. 10. A bright future when I heard the news. I was in the middle of planning my company's IPO. The information didn't even register for more than a second. It's not worth letting someone completely irrelevant to you affect your life. After all, my own future was still waiting for me, full of endless possibilities.